Welcome, Mattias. Feel free to take it away.
Thank you. Thank you. It's really nice to be here and talk. It was some time I did a lecture. I have been working with school for the last maybe 6 years. So yeah, I did a lot of lectures and I did a lot of performance on stage and stuff like that. But for the last couple of months, I've actually been dwelled in the indie studio during pandemic, which is literally working from home. So I kind of feel a little. I hope this will be good and different. But I hope you can maybe gain some inspiration of how I think. That's what I'm hoping, at least. So today, I promise to talk about. I had a request of, please talk about PR or marketing, and and I started out actually planning something really boring, which was literally like, this is the ABC of doing an advertisement and good marketing plan or whatever. But I realized that that's not no fun, and we're game developers. We try to make things a little more creative and interesting. So I'm going to actually talk about the part of PR that I like to call trust capital, or in Swedish, förtroendekapital. That's something I've been having in the back of my head for a lot of years now, and for the last kind of 13 years, it's kind of worked for me, and I think it's always a better place to kind of fall back to when you feel kind of like you have to do PR, or you have to do communication, you have to do marketing, and then it's easier to fall back to a mindset rather than like a bullet point, because honestly, with Google generation being here and all, it's not that hard to Google a good guide to make a good PR plan, for example. So I'm going to talk about what I think is a cool mindset, hopefully that you can take with you and build a cool game studio. So yeah, my name is Mattias. Let's see if my presentation wants to work. Yeah. So I've been, for the last 13 years, working more with communication than I ever thought. I literally came back from living in Spain for 4 years, working as a personal assistant and a support for teenagers in a Scandinavian school. I built a IT cafe, but I came back and I had my eyes focused on making games. I was going to build the next mobile game, and that this was around when the smartphones was getting a bit smart. So I was actually hacking Java back then, G2ME for Symbian smartphones, if anyone remember those, for the old little. I made some cool little RPG games for Sony Ericsson. Sony Ericsson phones. So that was kind of where I started 13 years ago, but I ended up in not doing games, but helping developers making games and also other stuff. So I started actually working for Citizen Science City in a cluster where there was a lot of networks with a lot of developers, and a lot of them needed to kind of find, their audience, their investors, their partners. They had to gain traction. They were passionate. It was, after a couple of years, it was actually hard to go work with software development with one passionate entrepreneur when you had worked with maybe 30, 40 passionate entrepreneurs. So it actually became something. I became more of a bridge between the developers and everybody else. And that was fun. I worked with a lot of kind of governments, and a lot of, I had probably over 300 delegations of people from around the world coming to Sweden and trying to understand, why are your entrepreneurs within ICT so damn good? And it was so cool to brag about them. And I created a lot of kind of a lot of board meetings and a lot of kind of closed round tables with a lot of politicians, trying to make them understand all these cool entrepreneurs and understand the universities and school, trying to make these cool developers and understand that, you know, the chain here is kind of not perfect. Let's try to support our cool Swedes of really getting out to the market and really trying to make software and in my case games. It was probably back in 2009 I went to E3 for the first time to kind of try to figure out what the game studios were doing in Los Angeles, and it was around that time I tried to help a lot of different kind of universities like Troy School of Technology and Stockholm University and Swedish ICT Institute, and I tried to help them figure out what gamification was and what is esport and what is it about games that is so cool. And usually I caught them when I say, because they're growing faster than anyone. So whether you want it or not, it's actually money involved a lot and culture. So that was my first kind of 7 years helping cool entrepreneurs, communicating. And I actually, in Sweden, it's not the coolest name, but I was more of a lobbyist. I was helping everybody cooperate and communicate and try to build their brands, both personal and companies. So that was fun. But I still really wanted to just support a very niched part of the ICT industry, and that was, of course, the coolest software developers making games. But I found a way of doing that through Future Games, and I got offered to come and help support Build Talents 2015, and that was awesome because then I really got into talking to the companies that was the really cool ones, and I did that for another 6 years. And last year I decided that I have to do what I've been dreaming about all my career and seeing so many cool companies and entrepreneurs do it, and I want to build a company that makes games, and not only games but builds a future culture. So yes, that is me. I work right now as a business developer for Right Nice Games, and let me tell you a little bit more about why I think how we work with PR. So my first question actually is that you should probably, when you think about PR, you should probably ask yourself, like, okay, what am I actually trying to do? And hopefully you're trying to make things happen. and I believe that nothing can happen without people. People is what you should think about when you think about PR. It's public relations. The relationship is where I think you should always start focusing, because it's actually people that makes things happen. It's all industries actually. There's not even money is worth anything without people, because you probably heard a lot of like money makes the world go round. Yeah, but not without people. They're just worthless piece of paper right now. And back in the day, that still was, the trade was still about relationships and people, between people. So when you think about PR, you should start thinking about how to actually communicate with others and who is actually important around you and your brand. I mean, this is not something that is new. People have been trading forever, so there's a lot of examples on if you just look for it and there. It's not just the trade in itself, but the opinions that trade actually creates. Because I mean, most often it's relationships and choice that builds opinion. I mean, opinions have probably even led to choices leading to war throughout our history. And it's still kind of a, I don't like to say war actually, but it's still kind of a fact versus kind of opinion, or who said what, and then you call that fact, and then it gets very very kind of very hard to understand really what is what. But even fact comes through somebody making sure and making comparisons and trying to figure something out. So opinion comes from people, and people, they build relationships and they trust each other, and that makes them do a choice. And it's the choice that I would like you to also start thinking about. How do I make my people, or the people that matter around me and my company, how do I make them choose what benefits me? And I mean, in reality, we are probably here because we like not just making games. We like living on it as a craft. We like, this is a business. We're just having a business probably that we are extremely passionate about. But we want always someone to make a choice, whether it is to invest in us, in our project, or buy our game, or just make somebody else buy my game, or make somebody else invest in my game. Whatever it is, there's still going to be a choice somewhere, and you're going to have to try to convince them that you are the right choice. And I mean, it tends to be a lot of comparison out there. You probably all have a game that you yourself have started figuring out, like, okay, is this better than this one? And you start figuring out, okay, why is it better than this one? But what you probably will try to figure out what other people think about them. Even if you're going to try to build yourself your own opinion by trying it and then trying the other, what other people say is probably going to matter, and it's going to affect your choice. But these choices kind of going to be part of our business. So making a professional kind of roadmap and plan about how to convey all of the people to make them choose you is going to be part of your work. And yeah, in this case, it's obvious. So trust is something that is going to help you make somebody do the right choice, right? So if you're going to have people making choices that benefits you, you're going to have to start building trust to them. And this is where the trust capital comes into picture, where I believe that the more people you make around you trust you and your product or your service, the easier it's going to be for them to make a choice. And not only make a choice, but they will also affect others making choice. Trust is the glue of life. I like this comment from an educator actually that passed away for a couple of years ago, but he was a really cool entrepreneur, and he wrote a lot of books. I would definitely try to look them up, but it's kind of the most essential ingredient of any effective communication. So think about more of all the people around you and what you can do to make them trust you. And there are a lot of creative ways to do that. I believe that these are kind of like the 7 things I would probably start thinking about, trying to figure out how people actually can rely on you. And this is something that it's going to be a gray zone between what you may be thinking through your private life or your career. But it is something worth thinking about if people trust what I do, if I come on time, or if I deliver when I say, or if I surprise people when I tell them something, I keep doing what I say I'm going to do. And that kind of means whatever you do publicly as well. If you tell 10 people that you will join in someday and make a talk, then you do that, and they will remember it. And to be honest is something that probably also feels kind of obvious, but being honest is going to be hard the more money you make and the more you need to kind of move forward in your business. You're going to want to be very honest, but you're going to have to also find a good kind of balance to what you can say and what you cannot say. The more transparent you are, for example, with your production, or the more people are going to have their opinions wanting to affect you with your choice in developing it. But having a good balance there, building a good relationship with an audience or with a group of fans or anyone or a partner is still going to, in the end, if you find that magic balance, going to benefit you a lot, because somebody is going to talk very fondly about you. And competence to really show that you care about the skills that you value and use. And that is going to come a long way as well when you try to make somebody invest in you, and whether it's money or time, it's going to be very important to prove that you know what you're talking about and you love what you're talking about. Credence as well. I'm going to speed things up because I see time is moving now, but all of these 7 things is something that I would recommend you to think about to make sure that you can gain trust. So now people have usually told me when I start talking about like building up trust around yourself or with your people, and people go like, well, is this actually PR? I thought I was supposed to make an advertised campaign and show my stuff. But it's kind of, yes, PR and marketing is kind of very close to each other. And I would say that I would say that when you start thinking about your relationships and how people view you and your product, how you want to affect people's choices, then it's still PR, and that's also what builds your brand, both personal and your companies. When you start talking about marketing, you actually focus more on the product and make sure that it actually gets sold off. So I would kind of separate those, but understand that the PR work you do and the marketing work you do usually kind of intertwines. But where PR is probably more, it could get more complicated because we're talking about people and people's choices and trying to affect them through liking you or liking something you do to affect you in any way. I like Bill Gates talking about, if I was down to my last dollar, I would spend it on PR. And that is interesting, because I mean, both him and people from Apple have been thinking about PR from day one. Advertising is saying you're good. PR is getting someone else to say you're good. And you can probably imagine yourself how much people talk about Microsoft and Apple, and how usually they only have to advertise stuff to you because you kind of already know it. So it's worth thinking about it in your own company and in your own games. So I would recommend you to still do 3 things while thinking about trust to the people that you want to make the right choices. The first would be to have a plan. It is not, I would say it's the biggest hurdle of making a plan, making a PR plan, is actually starting. And I think that keeping it simple and trying to fall back to this mindset of, okay, who do we actually want to reach out to? whether for getting funds to make stuff or getting paid for the product or service we're doing. Who are we actually interested in having to make choices that are beneficial for us? If you start going there and keeping it pretty simple, you are already on your way of making that plan, a PR plan. So researching and defining your audience is the first thing you should do. The second thing is to take all that research, try to figure out like, okay, we have these people here. I want them to invest in. And we have these people here. I want them to be my funnel to this third party, and I want them to talk really good about me, whether they're influencers or they're journalists or whoever they are. And then I have these people that I literally are building this game for, and I want them to buy it when it's done, and I want to make sure that I'm building something that they like and they want, and they are going to choose. And when you have defined all these audiences, and me personally, I love doing this. I think this is really cool to try to figure out people. And especially when it comes to like, okay, what are you going to do here? Who are you doing it for? And taking that time to do a proper research is going to hopefully be very fun for you as well. Making sure that while you're doing it, you realize you're going to start affect your own production. And with that, you set those kind of goals, kind of making sure that you know which target group wants to know what key message that could in some way benefit you in the long run. Whether this influencer is going to get you money or not, you know that you're actually trying to make them talk to your third group that is actually your buyers, and making sure that they have an easy choice when my game and these other two games are out. They might be similar to what I've been doing, but you want the audience to feel that it's an obvious choice because everybody's talking about it. And my cousin said that you got to get this game, or I saw this YouTuber talk about something that I like, and now I'm actually already I'm going to buy this. So you just build these plans and try to dig as far as you can to kind of find those who want to choose you. I always want to think that there will always be a big amount of people on this earth that wants to pick and choose what you're doing, but they can't find you sometimes, and you're going to therefore have to do the work to try to find them, and in the way they work or choose, which means that they might not choose anything that comes from advertisement, direct marketing. They only choose things they see their friends play or talk about. So then you help them find your thing through their way of trusting that something is good. And yeah, the project and campaigns usually can be very fun. I mean, sometimes I talk to people and they talk about how serious a campaign needs to be, and it has to show all these key indicators of exactly what's happening, and but I think that you don't have to be. We're working with games, and our target groups usually and our audience are usually pretty cool and pretty fun and easy to kind of relate to. It's the benefit of being a software developer in the entertainment industry. We have people that are entertainers. You are entertainer, and we kind of have a fun way of seeing things and enjoying things, and we can talk easily about stuff. So doing projects and campaign could probably be something very fun parallel to your development. But the fourth thing that you need to have set before you start is also to know how will you be able to evaluate all this hard work you've done by trying to figure out where your target groups are, trying to figure out key messages and good ways of reaching your goals with them and gaining their trust. And after the fun project that usually makes you lose track of time, how will you make sure that you can look back to see and what have worked and what has not? And those things are as much as, a quality assurance of anything. It's just the quality assurance of communication. And you make sure that with that information, seeing that statistic or seeing that response, you can adjust and invest, whether it's time or money, invest yourself into the right things that you see your people wanting to choose from others around you. I would say that, again, these are kind of a simple way of just iterating what should I do when thinking about PR, but there are a bunch of guides out on the internet, and it's not hard to find kind of like a lot of templates and stuff to help you. But I would say that this is probably finding yourself in a mindset first, and then going about it, whether it's just opening a Google Docs and just putting down like, okay, these ones are cool people. Oh, don't forget about Bob. Bob, he has like the best context when it comes to investors. We got to make Bob, choose us because we're coolest, because he wants to talk about us to these other people. So Bob is a really, how do we reach Bob? Probably through making sure that he sees that we're like a special team that loves doing kind of this type of art style with this type of people, and we've done this and that. So it's just keep it simple, have fun with it. I have actually an example. We actually have a project in our project. We're building a sequel to a game that we released in 2007 and 2017, sorry. And we decided to kind of try to reach out and get more traction with two of our 5 target groups. And we felt that we saw a lot of other kind of potential competitors that we could befriend or live on a kind of wild communication together with them through Twitter. So we took one of our kind of heroes from our game, and and we decided to do a campaign where she actually, like an actor, steps out of the game and actually is our kind of project leader for this PR campaign. So right now we have Skylar having her own account, and then we have our company account, and we're having a bunch of fun, and we're talking with the target groups and the fans that we kind of want to hype up and make sure that they kind of spread the word through what we're doing by having this kind of fun dialogue, not only with ourselves but with other kind of like talking with Sonic or whoever. So having fun with it is something that can I believe encourage anyone to kind of like doing PR. And I'm sure, I bet that anyone making games have such a creative mind that they will probably come up with some really cool campaigns about how to, make people trust and choose whether you or the thing you're doing, because it's cool, it's or for whatever reason. Okay, so the second thing is try always to think of making stories. Like I would say, marketing, that means making an ad. Think about that. It's a kind of a general way of seeing it, but it helps me when I think about, okay, is this marketing or PR? Well, am I doing an ad to get somebody to directly buy my product? And when it comes to PR, you should start thinking about building stories, because again, it's going to be what you've done and what you do that's going to matter and affect somebody's opinion and choices. The third thing I would say, networking is very hard, has been hard since the pandemic. It's been messing up a lot of these events. But like this group and other groups in around the internet, there are always ways to connect and build relationships. And I encourage you to just keep doing that. And this is a parallel thing that you should be doing all the time while developing your game. You should always think about who can I get to know, or who can I try to affect, or who can I let affect my choices, and to maybe see something new that I haven't. So yeah, to kind of summarize, make people around you trust you. It's kind of what people have done forever, and that is kind of the easiest way for me to think about PR. Keep it simple and do your research. I mean, if you do a proper research, you're not going to have to need any guides. You're going to have to need anyone else telling you, because when you do your research about the people you should be caring about, you're going to start coming up with ideas. You're going to probably come up with some fun campaigns. You're going to come up with a way of convincing someone, or a way to make somebody like you, for your benefit, for the business, the benefit of your business. So just keep it simple and have fun. And remember that you are entertainers, even if there's a similarity between us and maybe a engineer at Ericsson. We're the cool type. We're the entertainers, and we make games. So we have a kind of that going on for us, where we're already talking about the fun stuff and making people smile. So yeah, have fun, talk to everybody, and have fun, and be open. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I would like everyone to unmute their mics and give Mattias a huge applaud before we take questions.
Thanks.
I was wondering if you have any tips, because me and Joanne are working on our game, Go Fight Fantastic, and we are planning an open beta in a couple of weeks. And it's very hard to do, a good PR strategy and marketing. What do you recommend to have, what kind of focus do you recommend to have if we're going to build, more people that actually want to try the game, more than just,
Use your
Instagram?
Yeah, I think I get your question. So how can you build a strategy for your beta that's coming up now? Right. I would say use your game and do something fun and show it to everybody that you think matters. Like just like we kind of did with our game, Skylar's Adventure, and our first game, The Adventure of Hawaii. I mean, we have a main protagonist that is kind of there, and we just, we wanted to still do something fun. We didn't want to kind of go to somebody else, and I would recommend you guys to do the same. Look inside your own game and see what fun stuff you can talk about or reenact, like in some fun kind of theatrical way. I mean, I've seen people even dress up and at events like their own characters. I mean, I remember I really wanted one of these magic outfits that came out. These outfits, and that's kind of the same thing. Like, that is PR. That is PR, because they make me want to choose things. And that is a strategy to literally, like, okay, but we're gonna have suits. That's it. We're gonna have suits. And I remember I think I remember their business cards, which literally it was playing cards. Like they made playing cards with themselves and their contact information, and that was also a strategy. I mean, you should keep it simple and try to have fun with it. It's probably going to be easier, and it's going to definitely be more enjoyable if you use your own game and stuff you already know, and you try to figure out like, okay, who matters that we want to kind of boost this to, and when you figure them out, you're going to try to like, how can I use my game to make them really think this is fun without directly sending them a message saying, buy my game.
Yeah.
Try to figure out how can you say buy my game without saying buy my game.
Yeah, I think that's really hard because most of the time you get so blinded by your own product. So I think it's really hard to see what is enjoyable for others and what is actually enjoyable for, me as the developer. And that's quite the difference.
Yeah, that's why I always say that research should probably be the first step and the bigger step of making any strategy or any kind of like communication to anyone. Like, do your research and let yourself kind of figure it out throughout your research. Because if you decide like, I'm going to invest this amount of time to try to figure out who they are, or try to figure out the ones I already know, what they like. And that will then be something you will start looking for, trying to figure it out. And you're probably going to talk and get advice from, again, somebody else that already made choices. And the good thing with people is that there's always somebody that has done the thing before you. There's always somebody out there. And with the internet making the world super small, you can reach out to anyone and you can try to figure out how somebody on the other side of the world have kind of done something fun with their game they try to kind of start reaching out with. So look for examples, look for others that competitors or people that making similar games, and look back at what did they do, what did they figure out, what did they try out, did they put on a costume and attend a lot of these events, or did they start making a really, really like cool like branding material that didn't really say buy me, but it's just good kind of merchandise that just made everybody love it. Are you going to make like, that might be expensive though to start making plushies to your game before even releasing, but the point is to try to figure out something fun to make somebody have an opinion and choose.
Yeah, thank you. That was a really good answer.
Right. Somebody else? I know I kind of dragged out a little bit on the time there, so. But I definitely would recommend anyone to just look at what you're doing and see if you can do something fun with the ones that matter. It's and if you need tips and advice, I could probably talk more separately. If not, there are always somebody else that has done something. It's you just Google PR in games, you'll fun a lot, and you will have your research made for you for at least a couple of hours, or if not days.
Yeah, if there aren't any more questions, maybe we should wrap this up. Thank you so much, Mattias.
You're welcome.
It's a super good talk. At least me and Johan have to make a lot of work now to make our open beta good and make a plan and stuff like that.
Cool.
But thank you so much. this was really great.
Yeah,
And
thank you. I really enjoy the talks here, and I'll keep support making people choose this Discord server.
that sounds awesome. And thank you everyone who joined to talk. We'll see you next time. If there's anyone who have a topic they want to have a talk about, just send me a PM and we'll set something up. So yeah, take care everyone.
Bye.
Bye.